Brion's pick into the Hecarim.
Olaf.
Another one, you know. You can just kind of ignore the Hecarim. We saw that yesterday, actually, where the Olaf just kind of runs through you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Silly horsey.
Rel is still open here, and the Gragas, you know, is chosen instead. I feel like Rel works so well with Olaf. But now you've given over Tristana Rel to Fredit Brion, so they can take that duo. Once again, it works so well. It's extremely powerful because, you know, you could set up attract repels very easily with Tristana's ability to jump further behind someone. You set up a stun, Tristana's damage comes through, works well in and out of the lane. And Summit is going to pick up this Aatrox again before the second ban phase. They just cannot stop this guy from playing high-impact top laners. And, I mean, again, #1 in damage right now in the LCK across top laners for round 2. And in that last game, he did fantastically. And this draft feels very similar in a lot of ways to what Liiv Sandbox was trying to accomplish last game.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, if the picks are left available, just go ahead and pick up the Ezreal and some kind of hardcore. Well, yeah, there you go. They're going to ban away the Ezreal. They saw enough of that. One game was enough, and they're like, nope, you're not allowed to play that anymore.
I think this time the Syndra ban would be really nice here. I think the Scion ban makes more sense than it did in the previous game of League of Legends that we just watched, but previous draft. But I think in this case, if you ban the Syndra, you really limit Lava's options. And we know that, there it goes, but we know that Lava is a player, he's very similar to Fly in a lot of regards, is that he's a very flashy player in terms of his laning phase, but in terms of late game teamfights and his impact, he has not been, you know, a shining light for this team. You know, you're looking for Umti for that. You're looking for Henna for those consistent team fights, and Hoya maybe, you know, on high-impact top laners like the Gnar. So if you take away kind of these stable champions for him, you know, it becomes awkward for him. Fly, the difference between Lava and Fly is that Fly has a massive champion pool. Lava, you push him off of that comfort zone, and his ability to play the game and be high-impact becomes so volatile that I really do like these bans here for Liiv Sandbox. You wouldn't necessarily ban these against a different player, but against Lava, it makes a lot of sense. And I'll take the Zoe away.
Take the Zoe. Well, that's going to leave Azir available from the 5 that we see very often in the mid lane. I don't know if Lava actually wants to hop onto that. He's having a giggle right now. I don't know what that means exactly in terms of what he wants to play, but the Cho'Gath is being hovered again.
I don't think the Cho'Gath was a problem last game. You know, it just ended up being that the team composition that was built around it wasn't able to get value because the Zoe was low impact, and, you know, Cho'Gath ended up being not able to really team fight properly because the front to back was so good. The same rules apply to the Cho'Gath here. Is I don't know about this one. This is really pushing the edge here. They're going to put Galio in the mid lane. This is a very risky choice. He seems pretty excited about it, but I mean, into a Zoe, it's not a terrible matchup, but what are you really denying with your taunt? I mean, sure, there's Olaf here, Aatrox. You can sort of deny his ability to frontline and set up for some follow-ups, but this is very difficult to execute, the composition that Fredit Brion are running. And it's Lava, it's on his shoulders to make it happen. They've chosen him over Yaharong for this very important series. And again, if Liiv Sandbox win, all 5 teams are still possible for playoffs. Fredit Brion is not eliminated if they lose this, but it becomes very much more difficult and out of their control for them to qualify. And to put everything on Lava's Galio here as the final pick feels very greedy to me, Valdez. Feels very risky.
Yeah, I mean,
making a statement.
It's something that he's played a lot in the past, and it does have a great matchup into the Zoe. I think it's just like, we're going all in, right? If you're pro, it's like, all the cards are on the table, we're engaging on your Zoe. They're not going to have a fun time with the Olaf. The Olaf actually gains a lot of value the more of these like big beefy CC bots that you get in the lineup for Bro. But we're going to be looking for Hecarim ultimates and Galio follow-ups and just trying to deny Fate a chance to play the game. And, you know, we saw what can happen when Zoe kind of has to pull things through the mid-game. I think Prince not on the Ezreal. It'll be interesting to see what he can do on this Kai'Sa that has seen so much success. But, yeah, I don't mind it. I think that Liiv Sandbox go on to something very similar. this time around. The Kai'Sa almost fitting even better in this composition.
We shall see as we head into game number 2 here. A lot on the line. And as we head into this second game, nice skin here.
I don't know the name of this one, but it's just the...
Bony Cho'Gath. Cho'Gath Bones.
Yes. Mr. Bones.
Mr. Bones. Sending him on some wild rides.
We were on his wild ride yesterday.
Yeah, you guys were.
That was one crazy matchup there. That first best of 3 we did yesterday.
Highly recommend going and watching that Nongshim series yesterday if you missed it. Bit of a fiesta, but very enjoyable to watch. There's
lots of fighting.
Shout outs to BBQ Oliver here from Lava.
True. Yeah, I remember that skin came out like right when they were coming into the LCK. It was pretty funny, the timing.
Yeah, it is too perfect actually. Then popcorn chicken was becoming the way people were talking about Raptors, and it was a whole thing.
Yeah, it was
very chicken time.
Yes, well put, well put.
There's actually a BBQ Oliver's like right next to my house, so I always think about the good old Oliver's whenever I see it.
Yeah, we used to actually get that at the studio as well. You know, just casting. They had a big vat of it and would offer it to the fans. So definitely one of our good sponsors in the past.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of old vibes in here. So we will see Kai'Sa on a losing streak.
Wow, she hasn't won at all on 11.5.
Yeah.
And you can see how many times she's played. That's 8 times I can count.
I mean, that's also, like, you're looking at this list, too, and you're like, Ghost, 0-2, Ruler, 0-1 as well. You know, this is not just a list of mediocre players. Even Bao, you know, has been a player we've been a little bit hyped about this season, so.
Ooh, Henna. That's not the CS you were going for. Not the CS you were looking for there. Does actually take a decent trade, but was pretty aggressive trying to go for that one when the enemy is about to hit level 2. Gotta be careful.
We will see how this this game shakes up, Valdez, because the Galio, when I think about who he can jump on and how this comp can operate with Umti trying to get in there and assassinate Prince. I've already seen Prince's positioning is, you know, pretty good overall, and he's willing to spend resources to buy like a QSS. In this game, he didn't take the cleanse, went for the heal instead. But, you know, it's difficult to catch him, and then you have good peel as, okay. That was scary. You have good peel if you're Liiv Sandbox against that type of hard engage because you have the cask. Summit and Croc are both a really strong front line. Yeah. This draft for Fredit Brion just feels really like it's reaching to me for success. And you could see the reasons kind of in an isolated vacuum, as Alice and Ellis like to call it. You know, it's like you're looking for good matchup in mid. It's not terrible for the rest of your composition, but your synergy in those late game team fights, it feels like it falls off quite a bit. Whereas Liiv Sandbox, you know, they have a good front to back team fight, and especially in the mid game, a lot of edges. Sandbox can have some scaling problems towards the late game, though, themselves, too, if they don't get significantly ahead.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, I kind of like the Cho'Gath again. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm just biased. I just really like this pick. It just feels so good, the burst damage that you get with the Feast. Can really be a team fight changer. I think it's going to be pretty difficult to get on top of Zoe or a Kai'Sa as the Cho'Gath, but you know, handling the Aatrox especially might even just be an answer to the Aatrox, right? Because we've seen it a couple of times now directly into the Aatrox as a counter pick. And, you know, if you're struggling with sustained damage and bursting through the amount of sustain that Summit on the Aatrox has, the Feast can be one way to deal with that. And we already saw that the laning phase is just fine, right? Like, it's not like Cho'Gath gets bullied or anything, and in fact, in the early game, it's quite the opposite.
Yeah.
So, you know, it feels like this pick is looking better and better into certain matchups in the top side.
I do feel like he's potentially, just because of his kit and his ability to set up combos, he's going to work really well with any CC setups that you can have. Rel is kind of the easy one here. But we saw how well he works with Shockwave just a few days ago. And, you know, the ability to set up wombos is actually so critical in this meta of League of Legends. You know, sometimes you don't have the ability to wombo because the damage is so backloaded and there's such a strong front line. But right now, we kind of are in a meta where you have one strong tank and then everyone else is engaging for the AD carry to do damage in the back. And, you know, sometimes depending on the comp, the mid laner as well. But if you are able to get that big setup and catch some of those squishies in the backline and they get silenced and stunned, or rather knocked up by the Rupture, you're going to have a really bad time. So he just seems really good in general when you think about his kit. And his weaknesses are, you know, if he gets burst down or front to back super hard as we saw in the last game, can be a big issue.
Yeah, pretty difficult to do to that thick boy in
Yes.
the Cho'Gath, but yeah, certainly in the mid game, like especially for Liiv Sandbox. Like I talked about Bro's comp being a little bit all in, right? In the sense that, you know, when you start the fight, everybody jumps in all together, and it's got synergy through that. But like Liiv Sandbox, it's like if you don't get early tempo, you're really struggling. Like you're not gonna enjoy yourself in the mid to late stages of the game, and we might just see a very similar game to kind of like game one, right, where Lava wasn't quite able to carry through the mid game hard enough to get the Tristana online, and then it was like, well, now the Ezreal Victor are just way ahead of you. You lost a couple of team fights, and that's kind of it. And the game ended like 2 minutes later.
Yeah.
So could definitely see kind of a repeat of that here in this game.
The early lead for Liiv Sandbox is there in terms of their control of the map. Effort has just been roaming this entire time trying to get vision control. And, you know, he was able to get that extra vision on the top side of the map removed. It's now been replaced. And because they got the Drake so early with this early Olaf pick, which almost guarantees you the first Drake in a lot of these matchups, they have the ability now to contest the Herald. Top teleports are traded. This happened early on. So the Sandbox are in a position to where, as long as nothing goes wrong here for Summit and Fate is able to stay stable in this mid lane, they can make a real case for taking both the Drake and the Rift Herald, which doesn't always happen. In fact, it's quite rare, except with compositions like this. So let's see if they can stack those advantages. Uh-oh. This is not great for Effort, but he's going to swing that weight around.
Yeah. Yeah, he uses body slam, so I thought maybe they'd go in on that one, at least force a flash, but just kind of letting him do whatever he wants here. Kind of a quiet early game outside of that Drake take that you mentioned. Both the junglers just farming it out. We don't see a big CS gap really anywhere except the mid lane, which is kind of natural here. Be about 10 CS, and then Lava will just kind of cruise from here. Be totally fine.
The timing is a little bit awkward here for Hoya because he doesn't know where Kroko is, and he knows that this is the objective you're looking for right now. They also saw the missing Zoe in mid lane, and now they're realizing, okay, nobody's actually come over here to take this. They dropped a ward in, but it is blocked by the control ward, so there's not a ton of vision, but they know that it's very likely Liiv Sandbox are making a play for this, but in reality, Liiv Sandbox were a little bit slow. Kroko reset right before this. So Fredit Brion, as slowly as they did find out and get this information, they were very patient with this, and now they're actually going to try to take Drake priority. Fate has prio, so he can rotate over here, and this might just be that double objective I was talking about. They get the Rift Scuttle, but seeing that this is being taken isn't enough to stop it. You're going to have to commit more.
Yeah, and I think Umpty was just spotted smiting the Scuttle Crab, but he did have a second smite on the way. Funny that Liiv Sandbox don't commit to that one here. Fate just having a fun time, even going to deny that damage as we have Henna going in, trying to get that damage down onto Prince, but it will just be a trade of ultimates at the end of the day. Very similar health at this point.
There's a lot of pings around this Herald here for Fredit Brion. They know that Kroko is on it, but with the mid prio and Fate's total control over this lane, they're just not willing to contest it. Also, you know, Summit has started to take this lane over, just like last game where you see the Aatrox start to win it out the longer it goes on. They can't deny this. They can't get too much on the map. That's why they're pushing bots so hard. Henna is really trying to push the issue here, and they're collapsing in because they're like, okay, you're going to get Herald, we're going to get Prince. You've got to trade this for something. And unfortunately, you know, they get a turret plate, but nothing else here for Fredit Brion. So this early game is going As it should for Liiv Sandbox.
Yeah. You know, I'm glad you pointed it out because generally when we see trades like that, you know, the enemy AD carry is on the Rift Herald because they're putting so much pressure and priority on making sure that they get that objective. But Prince was down there just farming it up, and he's even ahead on farm. So he was getting solo XP as well. He's feeling real great about that situation. As the Rift Herald goes the way of Liiv Sandbox, they're going to throw that into the mid lane and casually just pick up a 1,000 gold lead here overall. And this is the lead that they need, right? If they don't get this lead, I think they're not going to have a fun time in this game. They're probably going to lose. So, you know, getting this good start is certainly what they would like to do.
Well, let's see how Fate performs, you know, in terms of where his paddle stars are hitting. If he can hit any, you know, sleep targets that end up blowing up one single member of Fredit Brion, I think it's very difficult to do that. I think it's going to be more about consistent damage with the Zoe in this case than the pick potential. Because how Zoe operates versus different team comps is so massively different, right? If you have squishy targets that don't have an escape, or an AP mid laner who's trying to do consistent damage like a Victor, you end up getting popped. Here's a fight.
All right, they're just going to try to burst down Delight. He's getting a lot of value in there, and here comes the Galio. Not actually going to land a great taunt. He only gets onto the Croco, onto the Olaf, but he's still alive. And actually, Liiv Sandbox are dominating this fight so hard because the engage there from Bro was pretty lackluster. And after that pick onto Delight, Liiv Sandbox just really pressed the issue.
They really did. The body slam was so perfect there from Effort as well at the last moment to make sure that they guarantee the kill there, and he knew he was going to be safe. Prince's killer instinct was perfect too. No hesitation. And they end up controlling this fight so beautifully, get a second Drake and a lot of extra gold, you know, into the Kai'Sa and the Zoe here. This is pretty desperate for Fredit Brion right now, you know, to try to contest this. And Delight is just dead instantly. And when you're Umpty here, you feel like, okay, well, I'm in a good position to set this up. The taunt goes through, but Prince actually kills the Tristana. And that's it. This fight is basically over. And you're hoping you're going to get maybe Croco, but he's so tanky, and Effort's like, no, body slam by. And once the Tristana is dead in this fight, you don't have the damage output to get anybody else.
Yeah. Croco sustained a huge amount of health and damage over the course of that fight, so really took a lot of the focus away from this one. Fate, even going to land another bubble here. Is not going to commit to it, but at least gets the damage down. Continues to pressure there in that mid lane. And this is just huge for Liiv Sandbox. They get those 2 early Drakes that you really love to have on the Olaf. Again, it is a Cloud Soul, but...
Back to back, man.
Yeah, it's actually quite good for Olaf Aatrox, right? You know, this it's like we're back on 11.1 or something. Except, you know, of course, Core Drinker and Sterix have taken some big nerfs.
It's pretty good for Effort as well, you know, in this game. It's going to be pretty significant to have that on cooldown for every team fight. Or off cooldown, I should say. They're going to get this turret and maybe even more.
Yeah, they're looking for it. As he is going to block the dash there. And he takes an insane amount of damage, but it just doesn't matter. Umpty behind the play. Could not catch up to that one. Not expecting the Galio to get dove. Croco maybe even looking for more here. Not sure about this one. He's got Feast up. But with Fate here, actually, okay.
There's a mini wave crashing too. The timing is not great, but I think they can still get him.
They should be able to. I mean, Hecarim is nowhere to be seen, right? And the Cho'Gath is just so sad after that. So he's going to go down, and now immediately they just throw a teleport down on the bottom side.
Look at
Oh, man.
Not even close to death. No fear.
Yeah. Nice little Magnet Storm does come in, and Effort takes a lot of damage, and at least they'll trade 1 for 1. But that is not what you're looking for in response to Fredit Brion.
Oh, Summit's teleport was so well timed. He knew there was a threat there. Prince, the Killer Instinct, was so safe. And yeah, I mean, it's a trade, but you need more. What?
Guys. Umpty is like, yeah, I'm just getting out of here. I can't even watch this anymore. Really trying to force the issue, but...
It's raining outside. It's raining in this game. If you're Henna, the Catherine Rain going to execute him there. No problem.
He's got the upgrade already. I mean, man, really trying to make the most of a really sorry situation.
This
all
is
I could really say.
Croco just pushing the envelope here. I mean, the follow-up sleep, he blocks the charge. Lava has no way out. He can't charge north, or he's going to get caught anyways. And This is a really nice trouble bubble. If it hits Hoya, he dies. And then Summit's like, we got a whole minion wave here, and I'm right next to it. If you go down, you get slept. There's no way to even avoid the damage. Fate just secures the kill. And then he teleports immediately to the bottom side. So, this is actually rewound a little bit. So as soon as he gets the kill here, he's actually like, oh, I'm going to actually have a huge impact on this bottom fight as well. Prince Killer instincts away to safety. And it's just beautiful to see how quickly this team can respond and play macro in 2 lanes, where in 2 places of the map, Fredit Brion are losing out. And then Henna decides to go back in for some reason here.
Look at how much damage he takes.
Like, Summit's like, hello?
It's just WQ from the Kai'Sa. There's a reason why this pick exists so much. And is picked, feels like almost every game.
Yeah, if you hit that one Q from the Aatrox, that's the end. Because she's going to hit the Acathian Rain and you're done. Did so much damage. Both the Aatrox and the Kai'Sa's Acathian Rain there in the end.
Yeah.
This feels like a lead that's almost insurmountable right now for Liiv Sandbox.
Yeah, you know what this feels like is T1 against, who did they play yesterday? DRX, game number 2. Where it's like they had kind of a similar comp, but not, as reliant on tempo. But then they just stomped the early game so hard that, it didn't matter what the comps were. And eventually you just begin to roam around the map and take everything away from your opponents. I mean,
yeah,
it's going to be so difficult for Bro to fight over any of these Cloud Drakes now. The second Rift Heralds. We've got 2-0-2 Zoe and Kai'Sa and a Fed Olaf.
Not to mention that, Fate understands that this composition really is so reliant on him doing consistent damage, and the composition does have its weak points, so he's gone all in on his build as well. He got a Mage Eyes very early. So he knows that he's just going to try to maximize how much value he's going to have to keep snowballing this game into further advantage. I mean, look, it's not unusual to see Stridebreaker on the Olaf here, but it's a little bit less usual to see it on the Aatrox, and they are just making sure they can secure these kills and snowball these fights, close those gaps.
Oh.
Lava!
Thankfully, he dodged that trouble bubble, or else he was dead. Might still actually be dead, but Fate's going to pick up that item and back off. But you can see what happens now. When you get this far ahead, it's like, it's hard to even stand in the lane, right?
Yeah.
And, you can say what you want about Bro and potentially scaling into the late game with a lot of frontline and the Tristana, but I think we're kind of past that point. Although, they do find 2 members in the top side. Effort, though, is going to survive, and so will Summit 1v3. We have the teleport coming in now from the Olaf, and it just doesn't matter. This Olaf is just doing insane amounts of damage in the backside of this team fight, and nobody can lock him down. Galio teleports in and doesn't get much done, and Effort even survives.
Second time in a row, he's down at like no health, almost 0 health, and is able to turn around, slap his belly in, and say, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
Wow.
Prince wasn't even there.
This is, Prince is meanwhile just getting a whole turret to himself, and Hoya's going to try to trade this back, but this goes back to me to the difficulty of execution on this comp. You talked about how, Galio is normally considered a strong matchup into Zoe, but Fate was winning lane, had Prio, was able to take those early objectives, and Krako's Olaf is something we don't talk about too much because it was kind of overshadowed by his Nidalee, his Lilia he played a lot, but even since Kespa Cup, this guy has been so good on this champion. This fight looks like it is Fredit Brion's no matter what. Effort gets away here, and look at how low Summit gets. He gets the pull, and then he's Aatrox. And like Olaf is just going to tank all the damage. Summit is waiting for his Q cooldown to come up. Presses his ultimate, and he's like, I'm back up at full health already. Krako goes down, but he's done his job. And no amount of knockups here is going to turn this fight around.
No.
Like, Fate is killing Henna!
Dude, when Henna got pulled back with the chains there from the Aatrox, it's like the funniest thing I've seen all week.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Or the saddest, depends on your outlook.
Yeah. As a neutral observer,
Yeah.
funniest thing I've ever seen. Oh, man.
Well, I mean, look, Valdez, it almost feels like destiny is like fate, and the script for the LCK is that we are going to have the craziest potential for a final week of regular season for playoff potential that the LCK history has ever had. Because again, if Liiv Sandbox win this, all teams are still possible for playoffs. And Fredit Brion had such a good start to the series, and I really thought, I even told you in the break, like, I think this could go to 3 games. I really hope it does, because I think that Fredit Brion has such potential. I want to see that 3rd game. And I thought their draft is hard to execute, but Liiv Sandbox have so much of a lead now.
Oh boy. Well, Galio's great. See if that helps him out here. We do have the flash coming in from Prince. He finds himself a lot of enemies, and in fact, he will actually die here. So, Liiv Sandbox, you know, trying to actually push the issue. The Magnet Store comes in, but Delight didn't realize his team was down 11,000 gold. Still actually taking a decent trade at the end of the day as Bro.
Yeah.
But Fate is still alive and he has a blue buff. So even though you kind of go even in that fight, you're still kind of conceding the bottom side of the map.
I think the point you made about the 11,000 gold lead is really the key part, right? That's the best fight you're going to get as Fredit Brion. You have the Magnet Storm into the Hecarimel, and that's one of those combos I was talking about that Fredit Brion need to pull off. As Henna, this is just him getting extremely destroyed. Like, I mean...
Extreme destruction.
Extreme destruction, like totally bodied, not even close, not even fair. Oya buying some time here. His effort once again is like just the man tanking the damage. And then this is the fight you're looking for where Magnet Storm comes through and you're like, okay, this is winnable. This is definitely a fight we could take. Like, watch this, he gets the fear off and Zoe's out of the fight for once. You know, Fate's like just for a few seconds not able to do damage. As soon as he wakes up, he gets an instant kill and they have to walk away. The lead that they have, 22 stacks now, by the way, for Fate. Yeah. The lead that they have is so significant that even if you get the perfect engage as Fredit Brion, they're hitting you with their wallets. I mean, their items are so much better. Fredit Brion are going to need a few more fights like this, and then you need this game to go on a lot longer. 4,000 gold nearly the lead here for Fate into this Galio pick that I had serious questions about.
Yeah, he's popped off in a huge way. There's not really any way to chain down this Zoe from here on out. I mean, three items and a nearly fully stacked Magi's. I mean, he's already above 20 stacks, so he's just going to be sprinting around the Rift. On the Cloud Rift.
Yeah.
And
he's going to get that right now.
Yeah, there's no way to steal that one. You take a look at the positioning here from Bro. Really, Hoya is the only one who's pushing a side lane or doing anything. As there's the Cloud Soul over to Liiv Sandbox. Talked about how good this can be. You're not getting away from Olaf and Aatrox anymore.
No, it's just so difficult. Especially when Olaf went Stridebreaker here, which has been the normal build recently, but it just becomes so much more annoying to deal with this extremely tanky Olaf who has Dead Man's Plate. Like, this is the new build. So how do you fight this anymore as Fredit Brion? I mean, this is nigh impossible to deal with. I mean, the difference in the Zoe play between Fate and Lava, unfortunately, is night and day in terms of the performance you need to have on this champion. Umpty, you're going to have to take a walk.
Or a gallop away from here.
Little trot over there.
Better speed up that trot. Okay, Fate was actually looking for that. Oh boy, he's gonna hit the light here. And this is what happens when Zoe gets this unbelievably fed. Thankfully, the minions were there at the exact right time. But yeah, Fate's gonna have a fun time in this game.
Yeah, after Faker's pretty inspiring performance yesterday, I'm excited to watch more top Zoe play.
Yeah, 2 Zoes in a row right afterwards.
Yeah.
Any coincidence? I think not.
I mean, the composition that Fredit Brion ran Zoe with last game I thought was really smart. Unfortunately, the execution was off, and now the execution is perfect for Fate, basically. He's playing this so extremely well, and now he has the money to back it up.
Oh boy. Well, here we go. They're going to try once again. The Light's going to die before he can even engage, as Henna has to hop away. This is what I was talking about. It's so difficult to get away from Summit. At least he's got that blowback there from the Tristana, but everybody else died, so it doesn't really matter. They get the Aatrox, but that's a double kill now for Prince. Remember, he still exists in this game alongside the rest of his fed teammates, and that's going to be Liiv Sandbox, just acing them here at 24 minutes.
There was some debate about whether or not to end the game or go for Baron. I saw a few on the way pings towards the Baron, but as it turns out, they're on the way towards the Nexus. Valdez,
yeah.
They have so much damage output. Anyone who respawns here, Delight, the only one who's left, gets blown up by Fate. He's slept, and he is just going to trot his way out. This was a very huge turnaround from the early game we had for Fredit Brion in Game 1. Game 2, dominant from start to finish. We said they needed an early lead, and they absolutely got it. They keep their chances of playoffs alive, and all 5 teams are still eligible for